this video, we will learn more about the security concerns regarding the vulnerabilities. Vulnerability refers to a flaw in the system. It's a flaw that can be taken advantage of or exploited by the attackers. Vulnerabilities are weaknesses. They leave the system or network or the IT infrastructure of an organization open to attacks. What is a software vulnerability? A software vulnerability is a defect or a mistake in the software that could allow a threat actor to gain control of a system. These defects can be because of the way the software is designed or because of the flaw in the way that the software is coded. Now, what can an attacker do with a software vulnerability? An attacker can exploit the software vulnerability to their advantage to steal or manipulate the sensitive data, to join the IT infrastructure to a botnet, or to install a backdoor or plant any other types of malware. After penetrating into one network host, the attacker could use the host to break into other hosts on the same network. What is a zero-day vulnerability? A zero-day vulnerability is a flaw in a piece of software that is unknown to the programmer or the vendors responsible for the application. Because the vulnerability isn't known, there is no patch available. And when there's no patch available, it's prone to attack. It's vulnerable. This zero-day vulnerability is very common in legacy platforms and newly introduced operating systems. To put it simply, zero-day vulnerabilities are vulnerabilities that the developers aren't even aware of. They don't know that such vulnerability exists. And most often, the exploits against a zero-day vulnerability are very rarely discovered right away. It can take days or months before these flaws are found, which makes these types of vulnerabilities so dangerous. It takes time to discover and fix the zero-day vulnerability. Vulnerability scanning. It's the process of inspecting systems and networks for vulnerabilities, which can be taken advantage of to disrupt and take control of the IT infrastructure. Specialized tools or softwares known as the vulnerability scanners are used to help the network administrators find such vulnerabilities and take the necessary steps to address them. Patch management. It involves acquiring, testing, and installing patches to fix known bugs and remove the vulnerabilities on a computer system to reduce the attack surface and increase its overall security. The following are the tasks carried out in the patch management. Firstly, it's about maintaining the accurate information of all available patches. And then the next step is to decide which patches are appropriate based on which types of devices. The third step is to make sure that the patches are properly installed. The fourth step includes the system testing to ensure that the patches are installed correctly and they are working as intended. Lastly, it's to document every step that's taken so that there's no room for guessing or wondering if the patch has been installed or if it has to be installed. Thorough documentation is a very important step in patch management. Keep in mind that improper patch management creates vulnerabilities. So it's very important to carry out the patch management in the right manner. Weak host configurations. Simply put, this means that the weak security controls and policies that pose a threat to the client device. If the device is running on default settings without any system hardening or security controls or security measures in place, then it can be said that the device has very weak host configuration and it's an easy target for attackers. This includes weak encryption, use of devices on default settings, open permissions on devices, open ports and services, unsecured root accounts, and the weak internet protocols. Supply chain risks. Poor information security practices by low-tier suppliers and other third-party data storage service providers can pose a threat to your organization. This includes the use of compromised software and hardware from low-tier suppliers and vulnerability in the supplier systems. To protect yourself against the supply chain attacks, there are certain countermeasures in place. The strength of supply chain security is only as strong as its weakest link. To minimize the risk of cyber attacks on supply chain, following countermeasures should be in place. To begin with, all parties involved must be involved in the compliance with the information security standards. Robust IT security should be set up, and the organizations must be certified of international standards, assuring cybersecurity.